Did you know that your brain is actually a don't get killed device? It really is. All your brain wants to do is live. And as a matter of fact, it is telling you a lie right this very minute. Your brain thinks that it has a finite amount of electrical activity. So it thinks that it has to just chill and relax, and that way it will live forever. That's why we create habits. If you look at your brain in a functional brain scan, you're using a lot of electrical activity when you learn a new task. Let's take, for example, the first time that you learn how to tie your shoes. Eventually, you get really good at it. I hope so. There was a period where there was a lot of Velcro. But when you get good at something, your brain puts it into the habit center, this little walnut thing called the basal ganglia. And guess what? It takes a lot less electrical activity there. So your brain is constantly trying to get you to develop these patterns of behavior and actually patterns of thought as well. Because if you can do it enough or think it enough, then your brain puts it right into that habit center. It takes less electrical activity and voila, we're living forever. Here's the part where it gets tricky. Your brain wants to warn you as well. That is what anxiety is. And initially, it's adorable. Anxiety will say, I'm a little bit worried. And you start to worry about things. And because back when our brains were in the heads of cavemen, we really did need to worry because we might turn a corner and there's a saber-toothed tiger. I better have a little bit of anxiety as our brain has evolved and as there's a lot more things going on and less saber-toothed tigers. We still have anxiety and it tries to warn us, but it can get a little bit out of hand. But your brain's trying to tell you something. As a matter of fact, your body is trying to tell you something all the time. How many times have you walked into a room, you just kind of got a vibe? Or maybe you're around that old boyfriend or girlfriend that really wasn't very nice and you get nervous. You stand up straighter and your heart rate starts to elevate. Your body is trying to tell you something. Your brain is trying to warn you. Here's where things get kind of tricky. People in my office talk about feeling suicidal. I have noticed if we go back to the brain as a don't get killed device, well, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. I'm pretty convinced that in talking with people over the last 20 years as a therapist, when people can really find something that matters, find a sense of purpose, what matters to them, not the things that people say that you're supposed to do or you should do, because nobody likes to be should on. Let me give you an example. I was working with someone who was in college and they were trying to become an engineer. True story. I used to think that meant they wanted to do something with engine cars and railroads, even as an adult. Now I know that they wanted to fix things and make things, but they wanted to do that when they were a kid. Now they were in college. They were 3 years in, and for almost a year, they kept trying to tell their parents who were paying for school, I don't want to do this anymore. But their parents, bless their hearts, meaning well, said, hey, champ, you can do anything you put your mind to, or we've done hard things, or your dad's an engineer, or engineers make a lot of money. But here's the problem. He didn't really want to be an engineer. So he stopped going to class. He stopped doing his homework. And what did they do? They doubled down on frustration. They said, you got to get serious. Figure this out. He said, I can't do this anymore. I'm feeling pretty suicidal. So we talked to his parents. And now what did his parents say? Oh my gosh, you can go live by the beach. I don't care if you even finish school. You can do whatever you want. And it dawns on me, why do we have to get to that point where we are feeling suicidal for somebody to listen? How about we skip those steps and you really find out what matters to you? And your brain is trying to warn you. If your brain's going to warn you about things like anxiety, then certainly I believe that when people start to feel suicidal, if your brain has said, hey, look, I've tried anxiety. I've maybe even tried depression. I've tried anger. I've tried helping you withdraw from things, not going to class, but nobody's really paying attention. Your own brain is saying, I don't know what else to do. Here's a Hail Mary pass. Here's a last ditch effort. What if you want to kill yourself? What if you don't feel like any of this is worth it? And all of a sudden, the problem is you're so low, you feel so bad that I think all of a sudden, sometimes people think, oh my gosh, I feel like I want to kill myself. The brain is even saying, I didn't really mean that, but I have this concept called your emotional baseline. Your emotional baseline is actually the baseline of emotions where you are operating on a day-to-day basis. The problem or the challenge is that all the things that you're going through in your life are coming at you from the same place, the same intensity, all of the same issues and challenges. But where you are emotionally will make a big impact on how you deal with these things. If you have started to feel down, like you don't have a voice, like nobody's listening, and people just keep telling you, just be happy, try harder, just do it. And you feel like, you don't think I've tried that? And all of a sudden the brain is saying, I don't think we can do this. Your emotional baseline is so low, you can't even reach those tools. That's where I feel like people then glom onto this idea of, I think I want to kill myself. If you are at that point, I want you to take a look at that. And your body is actually just saying, we need to go spend some time at the beach. I think we don't want to be an engineer. I think we want to be an artist. Maybe I don't want to be in this relationship. I feel controlled. I want to discover who I really am. Find those people that will support you, because I will guarantee you that if you can find those people, if you can find those things, if you can get out from under this dark cloud that is descended upon you, you find out that you're a pretty good person and that this is just your brain trying to warn you and saying, hey, let's not do this. Let's go do something that you really want to do. There's a guy named Kevin Hines. He jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge and he says the second he let go, he thought, oh my gosh, I didn't want to do this. And there's been a handful of people that have survived a suicide attempt as dramatic as jumping off the Golden Golden Gate Bridge, and every single one of them thought when they let go, that isn't what I wanted to do. So your brain is a don't get killed device. You are the only version of you that has ever walked the face of the earth with all of your talents and abilities, your nature, nurture, birth order, DNA, abandonment, your rejection, all of your stories. And your goal is to figure out who you are. Now, everybody around you is going to say, well, I think you should do this, and I think you should do this. And I get it. That's the way we come from the factory. We want that external validation. We want people to say, hey, I think what you're doing is right. We got to get to the point where you know what you are doing is right, even though people are saying, I wouldn't do that. I want you to get to that place where when somebody says, I wouldn't have done that, we say, okay, well, good for you. That's adorable. Because guess what? Your brain wants to live. And the more that you can figure this out right now you're going to be able to tell the story as a survivor. And somebody's going to understand where you're coming from because you've been there. So hang in there. Your brain does not want to die. As a matter of fact, it probably wants to go spend some time on the beach. So why don't you go do that right now?